times, but it's still the most popular one. It's crazy to me. Like, I have so many talks and I have so many things I can say, but people are like, Father, no, my husband's coming tonight, Father. He needs to hear it, right? Some wife was like nudging her husband right now, you know. I get it, I understand. So the talk that you're gonna hear, yeah, it's my talk, right? It's about my life, but it's about you. Right? I happen to be privileged because I do have one of these around my neck and I got a microphone and you're going to listen to me for like the next 45 minutes to an hour. But all of us could give a testimony to what God has done in our lives and what he's doing in our lives. This is all of us. The testimony that I'm going to give to you is an extreme one. But, you know, I think that for people when they hear it, you're going to be able to relate to it. Doesn't matter how old you are or your background, or even if you're from a different culture, there's so much in this because it's a story of a lost soul encountering the God of mercy, the God of love. And as I tell this story, I want you to keep in mind yourself, of course, but maybe like in your family and your sphere of, you know, life, people that you know that you really want to come to know Jesus Christ. Maybe your children, maybe your spouse, maybe friends, whatever. Keep that in mind, okay? Because if God can do what he did for me, there's a ton of hope for you and the people that you love and you pray for, okay? All right, so you see me here as a priest, right? I've been a priest almost 21 years now. It's crazy. Was I always a priest? Of course not. Was I born a priest? No. I was oh my goodness, my life, when I was born, this is how crazy it was, okay? So my mom was 17 when I was conceived. Mom, I'm gonna say was, she is, very beautiful woman. My mom is such a beautiful lady. So conceived when she was 17, born when she was 18. Their marriage was a disaster, total shipwreck from the get-go, because they had no foundation to their marriage. It was one of just sensuality. My mom was very attractive. My dad, he's all right, you know, but my mom, I mean, she was a good-looking woman. So they were just into it for the pleasure. They weren't even, you know, married when I was conceived, so they had to, you know, get married real quick. That marriage flopped. I don't even have memories as a young child of my biological father because there were issues. There were already issues. So my mom remarried to dad number 2. That one I remember. I was about 5 years old when she married him, and my memories are not good ones of dad number 2 because he didn't get a job, he was super lazy, his language, and then the things I saw him do with other women, not my mom. See, it was so bad that my mom had to join the Navy to get a job, to have an income for the family. So she goes down to Florida to boot camp for however long you go to those things, a couple months or something, and she leaves me with dad number 2 in a trailer home in West Virginia. Now, I wasn't born in West Virginia. I was born in Michigan because dad number 1 was working in a motor company at the time. And I have no memory or families from Michigan, but whenever people say, where were you born? I just, you know, I do this. I was right here, you know. I don't know anything about Michigan other than it's a pure Michigan. That's what they say, although the water's not too good in certain parts. But, you know. So, dad number 2, mom's at boot camp. I see my dad with other women. That's how I started to be trained. That's how the influence of the world it began for me. So when my mom comes back from boot camp, she's not thrilled with what's been going down because she's hearing stories of what he was doing. They separate, they get a divorce. My mom gets her first duty station in Virginia Beach, which for me was awesome. I loved it. It was near the beach. It was fantastic. And my mom falls in love with a military officer. Technically back then, I don't know what the rules are now, but she shouldn't have even fallen in love with this dude because he was an officer. She was like enlisted or something and kind of a big no-no, but they did. And she got pregnant, so she got out and they have my brother, my half-brother Matthew, 10-year difference between me and my brother. Now, what came into my life with dad number 3? See, the influences that I saw from men at that point in my life, far from being St. Joseph. I write about St. Joseph now, right? For a reason, right? We could use some St. Joseph in our lives. I didn't have, you know, this example. My uncle And, during this whole craziness of going in and out of dads, having all kind of dads, my uncle was almost like a dad to me in many ways. He was like the great hunter from West Virginia. He was like Rambo. This dude, if we ever get invaded, I'm going to his farm because, you ain't got nothing to worry about. That dude got booby traps, bear traps, and guns and ammo like you don't know, right? He taught me how to hunt. He taught me how to ride motorbikes, and he taught me all this cool stuff. But I'll never forget that as awesome as he was, he had a beautiful wife. She was such a beautiful wife. Even as a young boy, I was like, this is a beautiful woman, and she's so feminine, so lovely. But he put in a lot of hours after work, getting overtime. I'm like, yeah, homie ain't getting overtime. It's pretty obvious to see my uncle's a player. Even with such a beautiful woman, like the ideal woman for a wife, he's, playing. My grandpa, one of my grandpas, I got grandparents all over the place, right? One of them, he was married 8 times. Right. See, that's how I grew up. That's my mentality of being a boy was basically just score. It's all about the numbers. It's really, it was crazy. So when dad number 3 comes in, I'm thinking he's not going to be around too long. There'll be 4 and 5. There'll be others. It didn't happen, thank God. But dad number 3 brought 2 new things into my life. One, my last name. You remember what my last name is now? Calloway. I like it. Why? Because my biological father's last name that I had up until I was adopted by dad number 3, my name was Croc. For real. Okay? That's brutal. Okay? I mean, unless that's your last name. It's very nice. It's very nice. Okay. It was Krokevich, the whole Ellis Island relatives in the past came over. They shortened it to Croc, horrible. So he adopted me, I became Calloway. So most people think now I'm like into golf, Callaway golf clubs now. But that last name, thank you for adoption. Thank God for adoption. I got a cool last name. So then another thing came into my life. See, he adopted me. I took his last name, and then his parents, my new set of grandparents, they said, you've adopted this boy now. He's never been baptized. I had never been baptized. God, church, that stuff was nonsense to me. I didn't believe in that. My mom didn't believe in that. My family members didn't believe in that stuff. But dad number 3, he didn't really believe in it either, but his parents did, my new grandparents. And you know how grandparents are. No offense, because I know many of you are. But, they can kind of nag. No offense, right? So they did. They were saying to my mom and to my new dad, he's never been baptized. Get him baptized. Get him baptized. You got to get him baptized. So they were like, fine, like, shut up, okay. So they just wanted to get it done. They wanted paperwork. They didn't want some big ceremony. They didn't want some big thing to be, because they had no intention of going to church or following up and going to church. So they went to an Episcopalian church in Virginia Beach, and I was baptized when I was 10 years old. How momentous of an occasion was it for them? How many pictures were taken? None. How many relatives or family members, friends were invited? None. That was my baptism. All I remember, because there was no preparation needed, we just did it. That was my first time into a church, and all I remember is some dude dressed like totally weird, I thought, like I didn't know what he was wearing, came out, poured water over my face, and then, we went outside and we ate some donuts. That was church. That, to me, that's all. And so we never went back to church. We got the certificate, the little, he got baptized, and gave a copy to the grandparents. So it was like, zip it. Okay, be happy. We got him baptized. Stop talking about this. So did I hear about Jesus? Sure. Who hasn't? But when I grew up, remember, this was the early 80s. So there was another cultural shift taking place. Like my parents, they were the hippies. They were the 60s, 70s people who marched in the streets and burned things for rights, to fight against the man and the machine and all that kind of stuff. That was my parents' generation. I'm the fruit of the hippies. So in the 80s, it was like the MTV generation, Generation X. It was a little different, playing our Atari and all that kind of stuff. And now things like music for my generation were not just audible, they were visual. I think it was 1981 or 2 when MTV came out. So now you didn't just hear music, you saw music, you watched music and videos. And I loved everything about it. I thought it was fantastic. Because sometimes, in music, you don't know what they're singing, Rocket Man, you don't know what he's saying, right? Well, in a lot of those videos, now there was no doubt what they were singing about. Hot for Teacher, whoo, she's smoking, right? It was obvious what those songs were about. There was no ambiguity in those videos. I used to listen to bands that were called like Judas Priest. I didn't know who Judas was. I didn't know what a priest was. I didn't care, right? To me, the highway to hell was the same thing as a stairway to heaven because none of that stuff is real. There is no God. There is no heaven or hell. Basically, all I was taught in my education system and all that my entire generation was taught in the education system was basically this. You've been downgraded. Like, we've lived through so many oppressive centuries of doctrine and dogma and all these people imposing their stuff on you and telling you all these rules, but we now are a scientific people, and basically we can tell you that, we came from water, starfish, got on land somehow, and then monkeys, and now you're just an upright ape. That's what was taught to me on my generation in every single class. Really, you're nothing more than a monkey, dude. Get over yourself. You're not the center of the cosmos. There's no great deity who made you, and there's some purpose to this, plasmic stuff just endlessly stretching forever. There's no beginning or end to this. It is what it is. And that made total sense to me. I was like, totally. Anybody who believes in religion, especially Christianity, those people are nuts. Seriously. I mean, I had a science teacher one time. This was after we moved, because now we're a military family. So we moved to Southern California, and I had a science teacher one day come to class, and he mocked Christianity in front of all of us, just tore it apart. I loved it, because I was like, yeah, totally stupid. Like, I wasn't into religion at all. I didn't have a single friend who was into religion, not any kind of religion. And he said, how sad that there are people who believe that God, some nebulous spaghetti monster in the sky, came down and became one of us. How sad. Because we're moving on. We're human now, but we're going to become something later on. So sorry, Jesus, we're going to leave you in the dust of history. What a bummer that you became one of us, because we're moving on. That made so much sense to me. I was like, totally. Like, if you had to do religion, become a Buddhist or something, navel gaze and find nirvana. But why Christianity? That's for unscientific morons stuck in the Middle Ages or something. And pretty much all my teachers affirm this in one way or another. So did all of my friends' parents. So did my parents. We're the fruit of the hippies. Don't let anybody tell you what to do, what to think, what to do with your body. So I'm like, right, total sense to me. So did I hear about Jesus? Sure, but he was the great dork maker in the sky. He was the guy who wanted to take away all your fun and ruin your life. And between, Bugs Bunny and Scooby-Doo and Popeye on Saturday and Sunday mornings in America, when I was growing up eating my honeycomb cereal, my Pop-Tarts, I'd be flipping through the channel and I would see Preacher Man, right? And here he was. He'd be like, glory in the name of Jesus, be healed in the name of Jesus. That was like Christianity. And I'm like, I want to stay as far away from these freaks as I possibly can, because these people need medication, inpatient care. This is a grown man saying that there is somebody who walks on water and somebody who came back from the dead. You're a grown man. You need help. Like, you don't believe this. I mean, how many times in those cartoons did I see that coyote getting slammed with an anvil on its head over a cliff, but he always came back to life, and he could run across water and all that. But it's a fairy tale, dude. That's a cartoon, bro. This ain't reality. This doesn't happen. And here you are, a grown man, hard up for cash, obviously, trying to scam people with your little, healing service. That's what I thought. Get a real job, you loser. Seriously. And you know, that's not just how I thought. That's how all my friends thought. I didn't have one single friend that was into religion, especially Christianity. Stay as far away from that polluted disease as you could. So as I was growing up, you know, I was exposed to the culture and bit onto the culture. So basically, if we're nothing but a bunch of monkeys, let's do this. There's a lot of beautiful monkeys out there. So that's what I did. Now, I'm not going to get into details, right? Our Lord is here in the Blessed Sacrament, and you don't need to know all the details. That was for confession, you know. But just, you know, some of the basics. I mean, I started smoking weed and drinking and looking at Mrs. January, February, March when I was like 12. And that was just the beginning. Because when you were living to the logical conclusion of my thought process at that point, why? Why wouldn't you do that? If there's no consequences, if you don't believe in heaven or hell, or, you know, things that happen as a result of your actions, I didn't believe that. Sure, I'd, you know, observe some of the basic rules, but you can't tell me what to do. So at one point, my dad comes home, dad number 3, right? So he comes home and he says, they had already talked about it. They had to act like it was a surprise. And they said, we're going to move again, military family. And we had lived in Virginia Beach, Los Angeles, then San Diego, which is basically where I grew up, love it. And he said, we're going to move. And what I wanted to hear come out of his mouth was, Honolulu. How are you going to get better than San Diego? You're not. So I was like, okay, where? And he didn't say Honolulu. You know what he said? Japan. Yeah, no. Big fat no on that one, okay? But what was I going to do? I had no choice, you know? So I had to go. And I told myself, I'm going to be your worst nightmare. You're taking me out of paradise right now. Southern California was paradise. And you're stripping me away from all my friends, everything I've just come to know and love. You ain't seen nothing yet. The stuff I was doing here, first gear, man. You take me over there, I'm skipping all the ones, I'm going fifth overdrive. I'm going to be your worst nightmare. So when we get to Japan, I did. I looked for all the kids who were, you know, half naked and crying out for attention, for all the kids who it was obvious that they probably weren't praying a rosary, you know, sporting a Motley Crue shirt and all the studs, and they're probably smoking doobage, man. It was obvious. Everybody today's like, oh no, you can't say that. Dude, it's so clear. You can oftentimes, you put a cover on a book for a reason, because you're going to know what's inside. It was so easy to me to spot the kids who, they have problems. So I found them easy and started where I left off in Japan. And it just snowballed. Oh my goodness, it snowballed. So out of control. So out of control. So eventually, after a period of time, I ran away on the big island in Japan, the Honshu, the one in the middle. And was I going to seek gainful employment? Was I going to get a job? And no, please, no. I actually fell to love Japan. It was awesome. If you were a white boy in Japan in the late 80s, you were Bon Jovi, man. You had rock star status. You were like, you had anything and everything. The most beautiful Asian looking dolls throwing themselves at your feet. It was a dream for a boy who had disordered passions. I'll leave it at that. It was nuts. And so I wanted to stay there for the rest of my days, but I didn't want to get a job or anything. So I got hooked up with this organization called the Yakuza, the Yakuza. Do you know what that is? A lot of white people don't, right? So it's the mafia in Japan, hardcore. Japan doesn't have criminal activity like we do. It's like Singapore in that sense, although Singapore is way more hardcore. But there is one criminal element in Japan, the Yakuza, that they're the guys who run the streets with the criminal stuff. Hardcore. Everybody fears those dudes. They don't fully initiate little white boys into the criminal organization, but they use me as a drug mule. You know, when you're fully initiated in, if you're Japanese, you get one or both the top of your pinky cut off, your whole back is tattooed, and you belong to this. There is no leaving it. So I couldn't never fully get in, but they used me as a drug mule. If you remember, if you're my age or thereabouts, you remember back then the members only jackets with all the zippers, you know, there were so many zippers on our clothing back then and our legs, and you know, it was crazy. I would have so much money on me, yen. It always we have 1,000,000 yen. Doesn't mean you have $1 million. We have like $10,000. I was 16 years old, and would have $10,000 on me at a time. It was nuts, the life that I was living. Completely insane. And running drugs to different pachinko parlors, these gambling places, and the people I was hanging out with. Oh man, I should be so dead, it's not even funny. Can't even believe that I lived that life. Me and a buddy who ran away. Now, what I didn't know is that during that whole craziness, my mom was having a huge crisis. Like, oh man, huge. My mom was no saint at that time. She's been in 3 marriages. She's had her own issues, all that kind of stuff. But she was a mom with a heart. And I broke it. Because I was gone. She didn't know if she was ever going to see me again. I wasn't like doing all this crazy stuff on a daily basis and then calling her in the evenings, "Hi, Mom, how was your day?" I didn't want to see her again, which is insane because, my mom was only 17 years older than I was. She was like my older sister. My mom was a cool mom. My mom was the mom who got me to listen to the cool bands like Led Zeppelin and the Eagles and Bob Seger and all the cool music, not all this lame stuff today. My mom was a cool mom. Now I hated her guts. I did. I hated her. Emotionally dead to this woman. And it pained her. I didn't know this, but she evidently was going to counseling. She was on medication for anxiety, depression, and none of it was working. Not that those things can't help, right? But no, there ain't no pill that's going to heal the maternal broken heart. Not going to happen. So what I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't know. I'd find out later. My mom was doing all that stuff, and my dad was taking heat from his superiors in the Navy. He never got promoted again because of me? No. He retired. He had to retire early as a lieutenant commander before making commander and taking a reduced pension, whatever you call it, because of me. Did I care? I didn't care. Not at all. If you do a Google search and put my name in it, not the father part, computers weren't around there like we have today with all the Wi-Fi functions and search engines we can use, but you'll still be able to find stuff about me and the crazy, insane international situation I caused in the late 1980s between our government and the Japanese government. It was bad. So my mom's on all this medication, and my mom had a friend in Japan. Now, I love these people, and I'm sure that there's some here tonight because they're everywhere. In Japan, my mom was friends with Catholic Filipino women, okay? I'm going to tell you something right now. Catholic Filipino women are the special forces of God. They are the Green Berets of the spiritual life. They will take you down, right? You don't mess with these people, right? So this woman said to my mother on one occasion, I'd find out much later, this. Now again, if there are any Filipinos here, salamat po to you and your people, I love you, right? But I'm going to imitate you right now. Because when you speak English, it's a little funny, okay? I'm not making fun of you, I love you. But this priest said to my mother, "I know what you got to do, you got to talk to Father," right? Their P's and their D's and their F's get a little weird, okay? They know it too, they laugh at it. So my mom is 100% Italian. Lechita Bianco. How was my mother not Italian or Catholic? That's crazy. But she wasn't. Because when her relatives came from Italy through Ellis Island, they left 2 things at the gate, basically, Catholicism and Italian. So we weren't Catholic and we never learned Italian. So this woman says to my mom, "You've got to talk to a Catholic priest." And my mom was like, "Yeah, no." And the lady, Filipino women, they do not stop. You don't mess with these people. So she said to my mom, "No, you got to talk to him, talk to him." So my mom's like, "Fine." So my mom goes reluctantly to talk to a Catholic priest, a chaplain on the military base at Sugi, which is where it was. If you've ever been in Japan, you know what I'm talking about. She didn't expect much. She was just going there basically to please her friend. And, she'd been trying therapy and all the other stuff and it wasn't working. So she went, and that priest changed my mom's life. He started telling her about hardcore, in-your-face, life-changing Catholicism. Not crayon Catholicism, not let's all get along, kumbaya, tickle each other's ears. Hardcore, in-your-face Catholicism. where Jesus says stuff like this in the Bible: unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you don't have life. Medication, it's got a place, but that ain't gonna give you meaning. And he said things like, he whose sins you forgive are forgiven. You can go to the best therapy, get the best psychologist with a PhD from Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and all of them. He ain't gonna be able to absolve you. This priest was laying it on hard to my mom with all these truths. And I think like he just turned the button of her Italian DNA, Catholicism, on. He was just hammering all this stuff with the saints, with Our Lady. And then, as I said, I knew none of this. She told me when I would find out a long time afterwards, there was one story in particular that he told her that sealed the deal. He said, Lachita, I want to tell you about a mother and a son, long time ago, 3rd century. The mother's name was Monica. The son's name was Augustine. Monica loved Jesus, really loved Jesus. Her son did not, but he thought he was so smart. Oh, he had so many degrees. He could speak so many languages. He was so learned, one of the most learned men of his time. But whenever his mother talked to him about Jesus, he mocked it, made fun of it. Nah, I don't need that. That's for the weak. That's for people who haven't studied. That's for, you, Mom. Me? No. I look at the stars to find meaning. I look in my hand to tell tomorrow. I've been educated, Mom. I don't need that, Jesus. It got so bad because she didn't stop. She would say to him, my son, I know you're searching. You're never going to rest until you surrender to Jesus. He got so sick and tired of his mom talking to him about Jesus. You know what he did? They lived in northern Africa, 3rd century. He ditched her, ran away from her, got on a boat, and left the country. Sounded awfully familiar to my mom. Do you know where he went? Do you know where that boat was going? This is the funny part. He was going to Italy. Wrong boat, dude, right? Bro, you're going to the mothership. You're going, that's like, okay. So he goes, and he's cultured, he's into music and the finer things in life. Although he was a player. He was so bold, he had a child out of wedlock. He loved the ladies. He had a child out of wedlock, and he named that child a Deodatus, a gift of God. You filthy perv. He really was. You sick, twisted man. So he goes to Milan. Walking on the street one day, he sees a beautiful building. He's drawn to, these things. Here's beautiful music coming out. So he goes in, and he sees this guy kind of up a little bit, speaking in Latin, and he knows Latin, so he's listening, and he just gets hammered with the truth. And he hears a voice say to him, Tolle et lege, in Latin, which means take and read, meaning the Gospels. And he did. And his life so radically changed. Oh my goodness, it so radically changed. And then later on in life, he wrote a book called Confessions, where he talked about his arrogance to change because he loved sin. And he didn't want to change. He was stuck. And he talked about his holy mother, Monica. And it was thanks to her prayers and her tears that he went about having his conversion. So when that priest told my mom that, my mom was like, wait a minute. My tears, like my suffering can be used for my son? And the priest was like, yes, Lachita, it can. It's not wasted. You can give it to Jesus. It'll take time. It's not going to happen instantly, but it's not wasted. That was a complete revelation to my mom. Nobody ever told her that kind of stuff. So she went back, talked to my dad, and she was like, honey, with or without you, I'm becoming Catholic. And my dad was like, okay, I love you, so I'm in. I don't know anything about it, but if that's what you're going to do, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't know any of this. And she couldn't even continue the process. Why? Because she had to leave the country. They were still looking for me. So my mom had to leave Japan with my half-brother Matthew, relocate back to the United States for when they apprehended me, hopefully alive and not back in a body bag. Do you know what that did to my mom's heart? Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. Lord have mercy on me, what I put her through. But now she had Jesus. So when she came back to the States, again, I didn't know my mom no longer lived in Japan. She relocated to Pennsylvania, a place called Shillington, Reading, Berks County. Interesting. So they go there. Oh, no, she goes there. My dad didn't. He stayed in Japan to help look for me with the government and the military. Eventually, they caught me. It's a super long story. They threw me in the brig. I escaped. They shut down the whole base, Camp Zama, where I was hiding out at the time. It was nuts. You have no idea. Total movie stuff, man. So then they kicked me out of the country, literally kicked me out. I'm going to show you what I looked like at that point, okay? No, I'm not a narcissist. I'm working on my pride, but I do carry a big picture of myself all around the world, so I do it so that you can see it. If I had a wallet size, you wouldn't be able to see it. So this is what I looked like at that time, okay? Yeah. Now, I mean, there's nothing necessarily long hair on a dude, right? Jesus had longer hair, but the state of my soul, oh man, I am lost. I'm smiling, but I am so lost. I am so miserable. I was, 3 sheets to the wind, as they say in this picture. I always was. Oh my gosh, I was so miserable. Such in a bad state. So they kicked me out of the country, and it was so bad. I was so violent. I'm trying to beat up the MPs, the military police officers. I'm trying to spit big loogies in their face. That's how bad I was. I was a caged animal, remember? I'm a monkey. Why are you caging me? And who are you to tell me what's right and wrong? All of a sudden, you get the privilege of making the rules? I didn't understand it. So they literally had to handcuff me to the plane. That's how bad it was. It was a MAC flight. It's a military cargo plane with web seating on the sides. Really not for personnel. It can be used that way. But so we went from Yokosuka, big military base in Japan, to Honolulu, international airport, where they put me on a commercial flight, American Airlines. Still accompanied by the 2 MPs, and still, handcuffed with my hands behind me and my ankles together. So I'm walking through the airport, and everybody's talking. When you walk through an airport like this, handcuffed with 2 MPs, it kind of stands out. So I can hear the whispers. Oh, honey, look. Oh, my goodness. Honey, look. Oh, my. Right? You know what's amazing? This blows my mind. It was probably 6-7 years ago now. There was a dude, over in Stockbridge, we put out this magazine called The Marian Helper, right? Well, this dude had been getting that for years. And one time they put my story in there, and he's reading this, and they put like the pictures and stuff with the long hair. He's reading this, and he's going, oh my goodness, check this out. This dude was retiring from the military in Japan, coming back to the States at the same time I was, and in Honolulu airport, he remembered seeing a long-haired, freak-looking kid, handcuffed, being escorted by 2 MPs, walking through. He's like, I think I saw this kid. I think I was there when this was happening. And you know what he said at that time, 30-some years ago? He said, because he was Catholic, he said, I'm going to pray for that poor soul. And he did. All those years, he had been praying for that long-haired freak being escorted through the airport. Me. And now I was reading it. And then he contacted us, and he lives in North Carolina. We ended up getting together and meeting, and I said, thank you, brother. Thank you, brother, for all those prayers. Amazing stuff. So anyway, so there I am. We go on American Airlines. We fly to LAX. They take the handcuffs off, and they can't do anything with me. I hadn't done anything criminal on American soil. Can't be arrested. Interesting. What do? They didn't really know what to do. So the agreement was that I had to go away to try and get help because I couldn't be incarcerated, couldn't be locked up, to a rehab. So I went with my dad. I didn't want to go, but I had to Pennsylvania, where I saw my mom, and I hadn't seen her in a long time, many, many, many months. And there I am looking like this at the airport, pre-9/11, where anybody could come to the gate, when the planes are there. And I get off. There's my dad next to me. I don't have any handcuffs on now. There's my mom. She runs up to me in front of everybody. Donnie, oh, Donnie, I love you, Donnie. Do you know what I did? To my eternal shame, I put my finger in her face in front of everybody, and I yelled out, I hate your guts. And I meant it. I saw that woman break in front of me. She started to cry like a human being can't cry. Did I care? Nope. We get into the car, and I don't want to be there. And I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we going? And my dad says, you're going to a rehab. You know what I said? So that my mom could hear it? Good, because it'll get me away from you. See, in the airport, I put a dagger in her heart in the car. I turned it, and I ripped her maternal guts out. I don't know why I blamed her for all my problems, for ruining my life. I thought she ruined my life, and I hated her. I go to Altoona, Pennsylvania to my first rehab. It's called New Beginnings at Cove Forge. It's still there. You can look it up. I was there for 3 months. Did I get better? I got worse. I don't want to ruin it for you in case, you're not aware of these things. But, did you know that the statistics for secular rehabs, the failure rate is like 92%? I'm not making that up, guys, just because I got a microphone. This is factual. Why? Because it's a Band-Aid on a spiritual problem. You're not just a monkey, dude. It's not about snorting something and smoking something and injecting something into you. But they're not given more, because if they are, they'll lose their credentials and their jobs. You can't proselytize. You can't evangelize. You can't tell them about Jesus. You can't tell them about heaven and hell and right and wrong and consequences. It's just make a good showing, dude. Get that chip. Somebody paying a lot of greenbacks to have you in this program. 92% failure rate. So as I'm in it, I ran away from it. I learned how to do more drugs in it. I was scandalized by even the counselors in the program. It was a train wreck. So I get out, I go to my parents' house, and they're hoping for the best, right? What did I see when I went to my parents' house? Well, I didn't know this. The 3 months that I was in rehab, my mom, my dad, and my brother had become Catholic. They joined a cult. And they call me crazy. I go to my parents' house, and my mom was like Sister Lachita. She was like Mother Superior of the house. It was like a convent, dude. It was like so religious, it was nuts. Crazy house. They had figurines all over the house, small one, medium, even a gigantic one of some winged creature ripped like a six-pack, but stabbing like a snake in the face with like a pitchfork. All over the house. My mom was like hoping for like conversion through osmosis. She would put figurines and cards of this creature in my pants pocket, under my pillow. Just let me touch something to do with religion, I'd see it. I'd come home wasted, wake up in the morning, I'd see this Saint Michael the Archangel. I'd tear it up. Mom's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. This is nuts. I'm thinking they're like following Jim Jones. They're going to drink Kool-Aid in Uganda and off themselves, seeking planet Zeno on a spaceship passing by a comet or something. I mean, that's what I thought about Catholicism. I was so ignorant, I didn't know that being a Catholic meant you were a Christian. That's how dumb I was when it came to this stuff. So then she says to me, come to church with us. Church? Then I knew that they're a Christian. You're a Christian? Are you serious right now, Mom? You're an educated woman. How could you be suckered by these manipulators who just want your money, these fake healers and all this nonsense? Come on, Mom, this is embarrassing. Church. She said to me, no, Donnie, your father and I have found the truth. It's in the Catholic Church. I'm like, you're insane. You are absolutely insane. And I couldn't stay in their house. That house, because I was so bad, it repulsed me. Why? Because every time they ate a cracker, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, I'm like, just eat the cracker, man. I'm like, what's wrong with you freaks? It was nut house. Couldn't even stay in there. So I left. And remember, this is what I look like. So it didn't take long for some dude on a Volkswagen bus to pick me up, And I'm like, dude, can you give me a ride? I don't know where I was going. He's like, yeah, man. I'm like, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to the show, man. I'm like, okay, whatever. So, because up until that point, I was into like heavy metal mosh pit, power chords, I had anger. This dude was going to a Grateful Dead show at the Old Spectrum in Philadelphia. I didn't know that world, but I was about to be exposed to it. I went to my first Dead show. Wow. I came about that close to religion because there was a brotherhood. There was a community. There was even communion. Not Holy Communion, but we shared a whole bunch of stuff, right? Drank a whole bunch of chalices, passed it around. I started following the Grateful Dead on a Volkswagen bus, got a tattoo called Steal Your Face on my back, the whole thing. I fell madly in love with this whole thing, everything. Jerry, take me to where love never fades away. Squeeze every drop out of that note. Absolutely loved it. Wanted to basically just die on the road somewhere. Following the dead. Interesting. Following the dead. Right. Well, that didn't work out too well because then I got thrown in jail in Louisiana as soon as I turned 18, shoplifting from a store called Piggly Wiggly. I wish I had a little more manly criminal thing on my rap sheet. But anyway, tried to beat up the cop, pulled out a double-edged butterfly knife I still have from Japan. It was the whole thing. So I went to jail in Louisiana. Terrifying when you're a white dude with long hair like this sitting in a jail in Louisiana. Think it through. I was scared out of my mind, right? So when I got out of there, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't going to go to my court date. I don't care about your rules, right? I'm a free man. So I go back to West Virginia to find Papa Croc, right? My dad, my biological father. Because my mom had always said, stay away from him. He's bad news. So I thought, well, now would be a good time to get reacquainted with my redneck, relatives. And no offense, I say this because these are my people. Any of you familiar with West Virginia? Okay. You call this upstate New York, I guess, right? Capital city and whatnot. All right. If you think that you know what a redneck is or a hillbilly, you don't, okay? Take a little trip down to West Virginia, my friends. Wow. These are my relatives. I mean, it's the real deal, okay? So when I met my biological father for the first time, it was embarrassing. I mean, he was like, wow. I couldn't even understand a lot of words he said because he was so country. He was so country. And when he met me, I mean, I looked like this, and I was, I embarrassed him. He wouldn't even let me in his house. But I met his new wife, my stepmother, and 2 kids they had, a half-brother and sister I never knew, and they let me live in their woods for a while because I was running from the law. And he kind of understood that. He had rough days back in the past. So then my supplies run out. I got nowhere to go. I go back to my mom's house in Pennsylvania, and guess what's going on now? My mom and my dad are going to church every day. Every day. They get up at like dark 30 and go to church. And I'm like, you guys, how much worse is this going to get? I mean, you are crazy. Nobody does this, okay? People might go at Christmas or Easter. Some weirdos go once a week, but you, every day? Every day? This is insane. So I couldn't stay there, right? So I left again. Ended up, getting back on the Volkswagen bus and following, the dead and other groups and movements and so forth. At that point, I'm doing mushrooms, acid, crack, heroin, you name it, daily. I shouldn't even have my mental faculties. I was fried. Oh my gosh, I was so fried. And then I woke up in Philadelphia after smoking so much crack that I OD'd, strapped to a gurney with people in white over me. Can you hear me, son? Can you hear me? Because I was dying. And I went to another rehab called Charter Fairmont Institute. It's famous, still there. It's a rehab, but also a psychiatric unit, internationally known, lockdown padded facility. Can't run away from this one. I was there for 3 months. How bad was it? It was bad. They had me with all these Dixie cups trying to take all these medications, and I'd fight it, and they're like, you can't resist the program, take the medication. I'd throw it back at them. My parents would come in to visit. I'd try and punch them. They had to put me in a lock-padded room with padding like that, and I would beat it till my knuckles bled. Caged animal. Did not understand. Why do people keep telling me what I can and cannot do? I'm only living out the consequences of what you told me. This is how you taught me. And now you're all restrictive? It made no sense to me. So when I get out, I go to my parents' house again, but they had moved. They moved to Norfolk, Virginia, where we had lived a long time ago, Virginia Beach area. So they were so amazing that they actually said, do you want to move with us? And I'm like, I ripped them off so many times. I stole so much of their stuff. I did so many bad things. I almost burned their house one time, inviting like 100 people from the streets I didn't even know to their house when they were away on vacation. I mean, people were sleeping in their bed, people that I didn't even know. And yet they said, do you want to move with us? And I'm like, yeah. I had no idea what was about to happen. I went down with them, and one night, I was just going to end it. A lot of my friends did that. They're not here anymore. They took their lives. They're gone. Because this monkey had done everything. What now? I've had all the bananas, man. I have had what I can have pleasure-wise. I dropped out of school. I got no ambition, no career options, no goals, no 5-year plans. I got nothing. I'm done. I'm thinking about options. Maybe I'll do what my Uncle Denny did. Yeah, maybe back in the day, he took so much acid and sprinkled Coke on a joint and just fried himself into oblivion. He's still here, but he drools all day on his chin. He doesn't know his nose from his toe in Cleveland. Maybe I'll do what Uncle Denny did. I'm done. So as I'm sitting in their house, they didn't even have a bedroom for me. I wasn't intended to be there long. They had like an extended storage area with a love seat in it, which is where I would crash. There I am, and people were calling me. Because, I still had military connections with military kids. They move all the time. So they're like, dude, let's meet by the pier. Man, it's been a long time. We got an 8-ball. We got this. We got that. What's her name? This girl's smoking hot, dude. And I'm like, nah, I'm done, man. I am done. I don't want anything to do with this life anymore. And as I'm sitting in that room on the love seat, I freaked out. I panicked. Because for the first time in like 10 years, this is what I heard that night. You're going to hear it right now, exactly like I did. Nothing. No music, no TV, no video games, no nothing. Silence. And it was screaming at me. It was so loud. I wasn't used to that. So I went out into the hallway. My buddies are wasted on a beach somewhere. I go out to look at National Geographics, yellow, come in clumps on a bookshelf when you get them. My parents subscribe to them. So I'm looking for them. I'm like, I got to look at pictures of monkeys or maps of Viking conquest or something. So I'm looking. I didn't see one. But there was a yellow book. I thought it was a special edition or something. It said, "The Queen of Peace visits Medjugorje. Okay. So I pull it out, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. But I look at the cover, and I can tell this is something my parents are into. It looks Christian, looks dumb, looks, I found the dork manual. I have found what got them suckered into this stupid religion. They probably didn't want me to find this. So let's see. They call me weird. Let's see how weird they are. So I go into the room, and I start to read it, but it's talking about a war in some place I can't even pronounce. I'm like, whatever. So in the middle, you can see that there's pictures. I crack it open, and I see these little kids. They don't look, American. And I'm like, okay, what? And I read below the pictures, and they even got, to me, weird names. And I'm like, one of them, I thought this girl's name was Marijuana. I did. I'm like, wait, Mary Jane, marijuana, I don't know. But it looked like, so I'm like, okay, what? And it said, the little children are now seeing the Blessed Virgin Mary. Virgin? Please. There's nobody like this around anymore. What are you talking about here? So I'm like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, what? And they were like focused. They were like looking up in the air, and they had a pile of like necklaces on this table. And I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Back in the day, I was into things like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, right? And Nessie over in Scotland. I'd watch shows with Leonard Nimoy, wah, 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 in search of. They'd be looking for ghosts and phantoms and specters, right? That was cool, man. So I'm thinking, oh, this is like, maybe this is one of these kind of things, man. They're looking for like some specter or something, So I'm like, okay, so let me start reading this. I'll start chapter 2 because that war stuff doesn't interest me. So I start reading this thing, and I'm just like, wait, what? These kids say that some beautiful woman is coming in a clap of thunder. Whole place like smells like roses all of a sudden, and they're forced to their knees, and they start crying because this woman is like ravishingly beautiful. So I'm in. I'm a dude, man. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, right? So who's this lady? Smells like roses, make kids cry. God knows how to bait a wounded man. I was a wounded dude. You put a beautiful woman in front of me and start talking about her, you got my attention. See, I would learn years later that actually saints talk about this. St. Catherine of Siena says that Mary is the bait that God uses to capture the hearts of men. Oh, you betcha. You betcha. And the ways that a man sins are the ways that a man will be purified. Fascinating stuff. So there I am, and I'm like, okay, what? So I keep reading, and I can't see her. I'm waiting for like a snapshot, like back in the day, right? Like a Polaroid or something. Like, where is this woman? There was a statue, but I'm not an idiot. I know they're not talking to a statue, so I'm like, okay, what? And I keep reading it, and then she allegedly starts talking to them. Okay, here we go. What's going on here? And then she starts talking about God. And I'm about to throw that book out the window. God? Nah, I don't do God. I don't do God, man. I was super cool up until this point. Beautiful woman I can't see these kids say they're seeing. Please don't go down this road. This is going to mess it all up. But I was so captivated by this woman I couldn't see that I kept reading. Why? Because I've talked about God before. Every drunk talks about God. Every stoner talks about God. Right? For me, back in the day, God, Jerry Garcia was God, man. A tree was God. Everything was God. So, okay, we can overlook that. Keep reading. Then she starts talking about Jesus. All right, that's it. That's where I draw the line. No way, man. This nonsense. I came super close to just chucking that thing, but I couldn't. Because then she started saying crazy stuff like she was the mother of Jesus. The mother of a fairy tale? Scooby-Doo ain't got a mom. Bugs Bunny ain't got a mother. Cartoons ain't got... This is a myth. This ain't real. Talking about you're his mother. But I kept reading it. I couldn't stop reading it. And she started saying things that were crazy, like if you want happiness and peace, you have to confess your sins to a Catholic priest because what's wrong in your life is sin. What? What are you talking about? I used to listen to albums like by Ozzy Osbourne, The Ultimate Sin. Do it with Abandon, Scorpions. What's wrong with the Night of Sin? Sin means one thing, good times, rock and roll, baby. Talking about this is the reason that I'm not happy and thinking about ending my life. What is this? They never told me this in the rehabs or in the education system. Total revelation to me. So I'm like, I keep reading. And I'm so captivated by this woman that I start to believe her. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I've seen these dudes on TV representing this Jesus. But you know, if this dude is real and you're his mom, I kind of would want your version. Nobody's going to know this guy better than his mother. That makes like a lot of sense to me if this is real. All right, so I keep reading. And she revealed to me a Jesus that I had never heard of. God, yeah. Knew everything, oh yeah. But was merciful, loving, was so good that he sent her for some twisted little pervert like me. I closed that, I didn't sleep that night. It was like not even 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was waiting for my mom to get up. She gets up, I hear her moving up. She comes down halfway, I can't even wait till she gets to the bottom. I stop her, she's on the stairs. I'm at the bottom, looking like this, and I say to her this, I tried to, I couldn't do it at first. I said, Mom, I couldn't even do it. I was about to express something churchy to my mom, the ultimate death. And she's half asleep. She's like, Donnie, what are you trying to tell me? I said, Mom, and I said it, I just did it, man. I delivered it. I said, Mom, I got to talk to a Catholic priest, okay? You know what she said to me? We joke about this to this day. She looks at me and she goes, yeah, right. Hello, I just humiliated myself saying this to you. She didn't believe me. So I got the book and I said, Mom, what the heck is this stuff? Mom, I'm freaking out. What is in this thing? She said, did you read that? I said, Mom, I stayed up all night reading this. I'm freaking out right now, Mom. So she ran to the phone, 6 o'clock in the morning, punched in 7 digits, and this is what I heard my mom say, because I'm right next to her. Yes, Father, this is Lachita. I know, Father, I'm sorry. No, Father, can I bring over my son, Father? Right? No, right now. No, Father, please. No, Father. He was like 9 o'clock, you know. Normal. Priests are normal. They got to put their pants on, use a bathroom, have a cup of coffee like a normal human being. So that didn't work. So she calls another one. She's like, yes, Father, I know, I'm sorry. No, please, Father, now, please, no. He couldn't do it either. So I, of my own free will, of my own volition, had to say this, and I did. They lived on Norfolk Naval Air Station at the time in military officer housing. Right inside the main gate, still is church. I knew it, because when I would come to their house, I would walk on the other side of the street just to not have to come near the thing. But I knew it was there. So I said to her, Mom, isn't there one of those? She knew exactly what I said. You know what she said to me? Yes, Donnie, run, Donnie. And I did. I threw the book down the hallway. I went out the door, and oh my gosh, if you'd have come close enough to me, you'd have got a contact high. I was weed incarnate. You have no idea the stuff that I was doing in my life. I didn't even look like I belonged in the military installation, long-haired freak running across, you know. So I get there, close enough to see what this thing is actually called. I look up, the name on the plaque outside the church says this. It blows my mind that this is what it was and still is. Our Lady of Victory. Yeah, I was like, whoa. But I don't do church, right? There's the main gate, traffic. I'm not going to church. Donnie don't do church. So I'm like, okay, there's another building that says chaplain's office. So I go over there, military, they're up early. I open the door. I am socially deficient. I don't know how to communicate well. So I yelled out a little after 6 o'clock in the morning, Catholic priest. I freaked that place out. Long-haired freak standing in the doorway. All these heads are popping out of cubicles with their little white Navy uniforms on, and they got their Dixie cup of coffee, and they don't even want to approach the creature in the hallway. They're like, I don't want to talk to him. I don't know. And I'm like, hello. I'm like, I need help. And one dude finally has the courage to come over to me, and he goes, can I help you? Well, what do you need? And I'm like, I need a Catholic priest. And he's like, who are you? And I'm like, dude, don't worry about who I am. Give me a priest. So he goes back, comes down the hallway with some other dude in a white Navy uniform, and he comes up to me, and I'm like, are you a priest, man? And no, that's not what I said. I said, are you a preacher? And he looks at me, and he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that didn't give me a lot of confidence, you know? So I'm like, all right, dude, you do God stuff? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, get it out of me, man, get it out. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Get what out of you? I don't understand. And I'm like, I don't know either, dude, but I'm freaking out, bro. I read this book, this woman freaking me out. She said that I have to go to a Catholic priest and confess my sins if I want to have peace. He's like, oh, confession, sure. So we go down to his little cubicle, and this dude was scared. Father John was scared, right? He pulled his chair like halfway out into the hallway. Because, I mean, it looked like I was going to pull out a 22 and cap that sucker. You know, it looked like I don't belong in this kind of place. So I'm like, all right, dude, here's the thing. All right, here we go, man. Okay. I start telling this dude sick, twisted, foul, disgusting things that I've done with myself, with other people, with other people's people. It was nasty. And I was so embarrassed, I couldn't even look at this dude in the face. I was staring at the carpet. And after a while, I didn't hear nothing back. So I looked up, and he's like, and I'm like, what? And he goes, oh, whoa, wow. So when's the last time you went to confession? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. And he's like, oh, was it like high school? I'm like, nah, I dropped out. He's like, okay, was it maybe back in grade school or something? And I'm like, nah, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know when, you know, I don't know anything about this. And he goes, well, you're a Catholic, right? And I'm like, oh, heck no. And when I said that, he got like mad. He was like, oh, wait, what? You can't do, this is a sacrament. You have to be a Catholic. And I'm like, dude, I don't know the rules here. All I'm telling you is that the woman in the book said I got to do this. And he's like, what woman? I said, dude, the mother of Jesus. Did you know that he had a mom, right? I mean, he is looking at me like, oh my. And he's like, what book? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Queen of something, Queen of Medju something, right? I don't know. And he goes, okay, look, this is a lot to take in right now. So I need to go. And I'm thinking he's bailing on me. Like he's going to go call the cops. And I'm like, no, where you got to go, bro? It's like 6:30 a.m. What you going to do? What you going to do? Don't do this to me. Okay, don't be, oh, I'm aware of the time, you know, because you don't want to deal with me. I'm not perfect, dude. I got problems. You can see that. But help me. So he goes, no, I'm going to, okay, calm down. He goes, I need to go celebrate Mass. Okay. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm going to go celebrate Mass. I'm not a Catholic, bro. All I know is you're going to go rejoice in neutrons and protons and celebrate gravity, man. You know, we're going to celebrate Mass, man. I don't know what you're talking about. So he's like, you don't know what that is? And I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about you people. So he goes, okay. Do you know where the chapel is? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. He goes, okay, go over there. I'll be over there in a little bit. When I'm done, let's meet back here, okay? And I'm like, all right, you promise? He's like, yep. I'm like, all right. So I start leaving, and I'm like, I turn around, I'm like, bro, you call the cops on me? Don't be calling the cops on me. Because I just told him not just sinful things, criminal things in that little confession. So I'm thinking, don't bust me, dude. So he goes, no, don't worry, I'm not gonna do that. I'm like, all right. So he goes, oh, but do me a favor. He goes, when you go in, sit in the back, would you? That's what he said. I get it. So I go over there, I wait for a break in the traffic from the main gate, and it's like go time, it's on, no traffic, go. So I go in, the door slams behind me, and I'm thinking Jesus is like from West Virginia at this point, like, shh, you're dead, you little, right? I don't belong in a church. Are you kidding me? Me in a church? Oh, man. So the door slams. I turn around, and guess who's in the front pew? Like, let's just say that was the door where I came in. Right in the front pew. Nobody else in that entire church. Right in that pew, guess who was there? 5 Filipino women. You couldn't get me to the back fast enough. These people are freaks. I thought one of these people took down my whole family, you know. So I'm like, oh no. So I go to the back. I'm making sure nobody else is in the church, and nobody is. And then all of a sudden, they fire up this incantation to the boat hanging from the ceiling. It's a naval chapel. So there was a boat hanging from the ceiling. One lady goes up, fires up 2 candles on this, comes back down. And then if you know anything about Filipino culture, it's a very matriarchal culture. The men are very passive and soft. The women are, you tell everybody what to do. Got to do, right? And there's always one woman who's self-appointed mother superior of all the other women in their little group. It's just how it is. So sure enough, there she is. She pulls out a necklace from her purse. And then the others, you know, obedient little followers, they pull out their necklace. And all I hear, all white boy in the back hears is this. Okay, no offense if you're Filipino. I love you. I really, really do. But this is what I heard that day. Hail Mary. What? And then the other 4 reciprocated with Holy Mary. Amen. Hail Mary. Holy Mary. Sold to the highest bidder. You know, it's like, what is this? I literally think that I have walked into like a Wiccan coven. Like they're witches invoking fire above a ship that's going to take them to the cosmos or something. This is church. I've never seen this kind of church, you know, on TV. So I'm like, I don't even know. So he said, come in here. So all of a sudden, it didn't take too long. The leader turns around to me, holds up her necklace, yells across the pews to me and says this, young man, would you like to pray the next decade, please? Next decade. I don't know what this woman is trying to tell me. I dropped out of school, it's true, but I'm not dumb. Decade means 10 years, okay? I don't know another definition. So she tries to clarify. She goes, the second sorrowful mystery is the second sorrowful mystery. I have no idea what this witch is trying to tell me. You know, no offense, but I'm like, I don't know what. So she seemed disappointed. She's like, So she turns around, nods to one of the other sisters, and they, Hail Mary, Holy Mary, they start this thing up again. And I'm thinking, I know something they don't. I'm thinking they crept in here. They don't know that priest is coming like I do. And I'm thinking, oh, it's going down. When he comes in, there's going to be a beat down. They are going to get, he's going to come in and just be like, you know, Moses on these suckers. That's what I'm expecting. That's what I was kind of hoping for. They stopped. He did come in. Right that same door I came in, but now he was dressed like a hippie. He had like some robe on with a flower on it, and he seems cool with them. He's like, morning, and they're like, morning, Father. And I'm like, oh, I want to rat him out. I'm like, dude, I want to say something like, they're bad, they're evil, right? I don't know what. So he goes up, and he starts doing stuff here. And they like stand up, then they sit down, then they stand up, then they sit down, and then they knelt down. And up until that point, I couldn't understand what he was saying. Have you ever been to Charlie Brown Church? Okay. This is what I heard. In the name, Spirit, the Lord, you know, like, dude, get the bunny in here, get a battery in that thing, dude. Like, it's horrible. Catholic Church is notorious. So far, we're good here tonight. Catholic Church and microphones are usually horrible. So I can't understand, totally unintelligible. But then he goes up there's a mic there that worked. They get down on their knees, and that dude did this. To this day, this is the most amazing thing that I have ever heard come out of the mouth of a man. That dude bent over, picked up a little circle about that big, and he said, I heard him say it, take this, all of you, and eat it. This is my body. And he went like this. And I'm thinking to myself, you a nut. That dude just told us that is his body. That's what he said. And we got to eat it. And then he like showcased it. Ta-da, right? That's crazy language. That's insane language. I wasn't ready for what was going to happen next. They were focused. They were just in awe of what he was doing. You know what happened? Because it was like somebody came in and pressed pause in the room. and he was just standing there. I heard a voice. It wasn't me having a flashback from my LSD days. I know what those are like. Nope. It wasn't spoken to my ear. It was spoken to me. Like my whole being was an ear. And the voice said to me, as he's standing there, worship. You know what happened next? It's the only way I can describe this. I prayed for a way to describe this to people way back when I started giving these talks. This is what happened. Injected with knowledge. I knew what that man had in his hands was God. I didn't know theology. I wouldn't have known Eucharist, Blessed Sacrament, Holy Communion, clueless. I knew it was God. He put down God. Picked up a really like medieval looking goblet, right? I didn't know it was a chalice. And he said, take this, all of you, and drink from it. This is my blood. And he did the same thing. You know what happened again? Worship. I knew immediately what that dude had in his hands was God. I didn't understand how, but it was. That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen to this day. Then I was going to observe the most amazing thing that can happen to an individual. That dude got up. They got up, and they met like right here. One by one, I saw that dude say to each one of them, the body of Christ. He didn't say it was his body. What the voice told me was true. And then he came up and he got the chalice, he came down and he said, the blood of Christ, and I watched him drink it. I saw it with my own eyes. I didn't hear a voice, but you know what I experienced? I knew exactly what that was. I'd been here before. Not in a church, but in the church of the world. Do you have any idea how many things that look just like that little circle that I would put on my tongue? A lot. Longing for what? Happiness, meaning, and purpose, joy in my life, where love never fades away. I wanted it so bad. You know how many chalices I drank? Oh my goodness. And here it was. The last place I ever thought I would find meaning and purpose, a Catholic church. I thought the Catholic Church was the great oppressor of the nations, the unscientific medieval morons who oppress women, tell you what you can and cannot do in your bedroom because they just hate you. That's what I thought about the Catholic Church. And all of a sudden, it was all being lifted. I watched some other things that he did. He seemed to still have God left somehow. I didn't understand the theology at the time. He put God in a gold box with a red light next to it, and then he left. They stuck around a few minutes, and then they left, and there I was alone with God in a box. I knew he was there. I shouldn't be here. I got up. I walked backwards about 6 feet behind me. I hit the wall. I didn't hear a voice, but I saw a sign. Confession with a curtain. I knew immediately what it was. Immediately. Because I was in a church for sure, right? But this was God's hospital, man. This was God's rehab. This is where it goes down. I'm one of those poor people. I go to the hospital a lot. For kidney stones, make a grown man turn into a little child begging for death, crawling on the floor, right? I've broke this, fractured this. I go to the hospital so many times it's ridiculous. What happens in a hospital? You go behind a curtain where the physician saves your life. Right. This is God's rehab. This is God's hospital for the broke, the wounded, the sick. I knew it. I went to that dude's office and I told him what happened. I told him I heard a voice. I freaked that dude out. He was like, you heard what? I'm like, wait, you didn't hear it? I'm like, dude, you didn't hear the voice say worship? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, dude, I did. And you made God. You had it. I was telling him, I was like, dude, I thought you were a total freak at first. That was your body. We got to eat it. I was like, you're a nut. But then I heard the voice, and then you gave it to them. That was God, right? Because I heard you say the body of Christ. That's what you said, right? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, and God is still over there, right? In like a little gold box. And he's like, yeah, the tabernacle. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Dude, this is unlocking everything. I cannot believe this is happening to me right now. Either I'm freaking out, I'm losing my mind, or this junk is real, dude. And he's like, okay, I don't know what to do with everything that you're telling me right now, so I'm going to give you some things. Can you just go home and come back tomorrow and we'll talk? And I was like, all right, dude, I'll do that. What do you want me to do? And he goes, I'm going to give you some things. he was so nice. He didn't know what to do, but he was so nice. He goes over to his wall, takes off a crucifix. I still have it. It's in my room. This big. It had been there so long, the dust had formed across on the wall. Gives it to me. Goes up to another one. Takes off a painting of Jesus. Goes to another wall and takes off a portrait of his grandpa. Random, right? I mean, it was literally a photo, big, framed, of some pudgy dude looked like he'd eaten one too many cookies with a little weird hat, Whatever. So I was like, oh, thanks. So I took Jesus, and Grandpa. I go back to my mom's house. And I literally, my mom testifies to this, I instinctively threw everything away that I had in that room that was mine. What did I throw away? Mrs. January, February, and March. All my resin scrapers, all my little, that I gotten from sinks as I, went around for, to be able to get that last little hit, get the little pinchers for the roach. Everything in the room, including all my Grateful Dead tapes at the time, I chucked it all, including the gigantic Bob Marley picture smoking a big old blunt that hung above the dresser. Threw it all in 5 big black hefty bags and threw it out the front door. I didn't even throw it in the trash. I threw it in the yard. I didn't even go looking for a trash can. I went into the room and I hung up Jesus, and Grandpa in the room. Obviously, it was John Paul too, but I wasn't up on those things at the time. So there I am, alone. My mom is in the house. She saw me come back with these things. She saw me throw this stuff out the front door, but she's not getting involved. So I'm in the room and I'm like, I don't know what to do, dude. One phone call from a pretty girl. I'm a goner. I don't have strength. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's a whole day. I could royally jack this up in an instant. I was in panic mode. I went to the book that I read. I saw those little kids like this. I did it. Fake it till you make it, man. I pulled out the dresser drawer. I went like this and I was going to yabba dabba do this sucker. Like, how do you pray? Like, scratch and sniff, like rub-a-dub, peekaboo, I see you, where's God? I'm like, how do you pray, man? I'm about to talk to somebody I can't see. This is getting real. You don't do this. So I'm like, all right, man, I think you're real, man. I really do think you're real. I'm not losing my mind. I am not losing my mind here. I heard this stuff over there. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I looked up and there was the painting of Jesus I had hung up right above the dresser. It's the famous one where he's like this and his heart's on fire and the eyes, they penetrate. And I was looking at it and I lost it. I started to cry. Oh my gosh. I had fountains of fluid coming out of my eye sockets, pouring off my chin like a river. I could barely breathe. I was crying so bad. Why? Because you're God. Not the painting, of course, but you're God. You're real. Why are you not like this? Why don't you want to hurt me? Why don't you want to cast me in this eternal lake of fire thing? I'm horrible. I have heard so many people. I mean, if you're God, that means when I used to rob little Japanese ladies in Tokyo and throw them violently on the street and take their purse. You know this stuff. You know all the girls that I've done horrible things to. Why? I cannot tell you what I was experiencing. You know what I would call it later in a book I wrote? I would call it divine detox. He didn't need some poetic prayer for me to come in with merit badges. Look how good I am. Impressive, huh? No. I need you. I am so lost. All he wanted was that much humility. He did the rest. He came like a fire hydrant into my soul. I also call it like the honeymoon chamber with God. He romanced my soul. And you know how long that lasted? All day. My mom testifies to this. I was on my knees in front of that image all day till the sun went down. I didn't even know there was a world around me. Clueless. I got up and I tucked into that love seat because I said, I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and tell that priest what's going on. Do you know what happened next? Something horrific. I hope this never happens to you, but maybe you need it to happen. Maybe your husband does. Maybe your children do. Guess who came into the room? Satan. I didn't buy into that Lucifer stuff. The devil. Please, right? That's something we've culturally created to spook people, right? Scare them. That's what I thought. We like celebrate that junk. Every year we dress our kids up like demons and witches and go get some candy from the neighbors, honey, right? We laugh at this stuff. We think it's good times, right? Get the Twizzlers and the popcorns, family night. We're going to watch demons. We laugh at it. I laughed at it. And then all of a sudden, there is a creature in the room beginning to manifest itself. What do I mean by that? Take on a physical form. I wasn't having a flashback. This was real. And I was terrified. You don't know terror. Oh my goodness. And what could I do? What can I do? Am I going to duke it out with the devil? Good luck with that. This arm is made from dust. Ain't going to do nothing. We're talking about a fallen angel who is so powerful, smoke you in an instant in a fight. I was so terrified that I had to close my eyes because of what was beginning to appear in front of me. I was so terrified with fear, and I did the only thing I could. From inside, I gathered like a cry, and I screamed it from my soul into the heavens. I screamed out, Mary! Because I had just come to know the Virgin Mary, and she brought me to Jesus. That's all I knew how to do. Do you know what happened? The devil was like annihilated. I'm talking completely obliterated, gone from the room. And then I heard a voice. I'm not a mystic. I ain't Padre Pio, trust me. But I heard a voice that I've never heard since. I would die to hear it again. The most feminine, maternal, loving voice, like liquid love trickling over me. And the voice said to me, Donnie, I'm so happy. Nobody calls me Donnie but my mom. Nobody. It's not my mom. My mom's somewhere in the house. Always a mom I never knew I had. By calling me that, she's telling me that she's my mother. I knew it was the mother of Jesus Christ, and my mother too. I rested that night like a little baby, safe, secure up against his mother's breast, so at peace, not even the devil could touch me because I was in the arms of Mary. I got up the next morning, I went to that priest, told him what happened, completely freaked that dude out, but I told him, here's the thing, bro, sign me up. I'm all in. I put all my chips on this. I'm in. I'm glad you're clapping, because you know what he said? No. Because I've grown up in the culture of the instantaneous. I punch 11 digits, I'm mushy. You talk to some dude in Japan. If I want food, I put it in a box, 3 minutes, I got dinner, right? So I'm thinking, where do I sign? And he's like, no, that's not how it works. You have to go to classes once a week. This is the Archdiocese of Military Services. It's a little different. So it's going to take about 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months? Are you kidding me right now? I can't do this. He's like, well, that's how it works. There's no fast track. It's you got to do this. You got to get the classes. You got to know about the teaching. And I'm like, all right, dude, when's the next one? He's like, Tuesday. I'm like, I'll be there. I was so madly in love with Jesus Christ. You know what I did? I got a job. Yeah, crazy. Cut my hair. I lost all my power. You know, back then it was like a chick magnet if the dude had long hair. Like, I loved it. All of a sudden, I became a dork. All my friends left me. Nobody wanted to hang out with me. Girls weren't giving me second looks. I was a loser. It was awesome. The cords I could not cut. Jesus and Mary just came in and said, yeah, that'll be enough. Boom, boom. I started fasting on bread and water on Wednesdays and Fridays. Prayer squared. Growth in the spiritual life like you have no idea. Being healed from addictions and healed from so much craziness. The way I talked, everything. Got normal human being clothes. Everything changed in my life. Everybody saw this. All my relatives. They couldn't even believe what was happening. And you know what was so radical about this? This is how madly in love I was with Jesus Christ. I would be at church in the morning before the Filipinos. That is radical behavior for a white boy, okay? And at the end of the day, like I wouldn't even eat lunch. I would go to mass during my lunch break. I wasn't receiving communion because I wasn't Catholic, but I longed to. And it was just amazing what was happening. One day, and we'll end soon, don't worry, we're not gonna be here forever. So one of these days, you know, Vi, who was the leader of the Wiccan cult, right? I found out that these were like saints. These women were like so ultra holy, it was ridiculous. And I became their project. They gave me like green scapular, brown scapular, blue scapular, red scapular. I had I had medals around my neck, Our Lady of Antipolo, Our Lady of Peñafrancia. I never even heard it. And I was like Mr. T in the spiritual life. Like you could shoot me at point blank. It would not penetrate. I was like 5 pounds of medals around me. And they told me who Grandpa was. They told me about St. Louis de Montfort, St. Maximilian Kolbe, St. Therese of Lisieux, all that stuff. Well, one day, the lady says to me, Vi, she says, you know, you should become a father. You should become a priest. The young people, they need a priest like you. And I'm like, oh, Vi, thank you so much, right? But I can't do that, Vi. And she's like, why not? And I'm like, and that's when I had to tell them, because I didn't go around telling people my life. So I said, Vi, I'm not even a Catholic, okay? And you see me come to Mass, but you see me not going to communion, right? And she was like, oh, yes, I was wondering about that. I'm like, yeah, right. So I'm in the classes right now. At that time, there was another church on the other side of the base, which was where I was going to the Immaculate Conception Chapel, which isn't there any longer. So she didn't know a lot of this stuff, and I wasn't telling people. So I said, Vi, thank you. Thank you so much for thinking that I could be a priest, but I just don't think that's possible. You know, I got a lot of baggage. I got a lot of wounds. And she goes, okay, but you're better now. And I'm like, oh, Vi, night and day from, with Jesus, night and day. So you know what she said to me? Classic Filipino mother. She goes, okay, so if you don't become a father, I have a beautiful daughter. Oh, no. Right, I've been down that path many times. Please don't, So I'm like, no, thank you, don't thank you. So I just keep praying. And every time I was at Mass, I watched the priest up here, and then we'd go behind the curtain in the back, and people be in the line going into the hospital, I was just like, could I do this? Is this what God wants from me? And then I discerned it, became Catholic, happiest day of my life. And then shortly after that, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, man, like one woman is never going to satisfy me. Like I want fruit, man. I want to crank out some babies. I want souls. That's what I want. I want to make like bring a ton of people to Jesus. So that's when I started sending out all these postcards to religious communities. And a lot of them would call me back, and I'd tell them my story, and they're like, well, praise God, have a nice life, Okay, I get it. But then this one group from Stockbridge who promotes the Divine Mercy, right? And I'm like the poster child for Divine Mercy. It's real. It really works. So they were like, okay, not the norm, but, praise God. So why don't you come for a visit? So I came to visit the community, and I loved it. They were just like real dudes, loved Our Lady, loved the church and all that. And at the end of it, it was so funny, right? Because I'm instantaneous. I want it now. At the end of the 3-day weekend, I was like, I want to join. Can I just call my mom and tell her I'm not coming back? And they were like, no, that's not how it works. And they were like, you got to go to psychological testing. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Dude. I'm not going to pass that, right? No, just trust in God. And I'm like, all right, you got to, show all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I don't even have a high school diploma, bro. I ain't got nothing. I got nothing, man. So like, okay, well, we'll see, So I don't know how, but I got accepted. And then I had to go to the community college. I got my GED, went to community college, studied for 10 years, got ordained a priest 2003 at the Shrine in Stockbridge. Now I've been a priest 20 years. And why am I telling you all this? Because I'm somebody? No, I'm not. I put my pants on just like you do in the morning. I have not crossed that finish line yet. Do I get tempted? Totally, right? My relationship with God, like your relationship with God, is like a marriage. The honeymoon is over. Right? It lasts longer than a normal honeymoon in marriage, but right now it's the daily grind. It's the commitment. It's like, I really love you. And not every day is tiptoeing through the tulips and fun. A lot of days in the priesthood suck. They really do, especially these days. I was ordained in 2003 when all the scandals happened. First time I went on an international flight out of Boston, had some lady go off on me because her child used my knee to push himself up. She chastised me in front of everybody and said, don't touch my son, you pedophile. Welcome to the priesthood. I mean, this is the times that we're living in. I didn't do anything. I mean, you'd be amazed. I have people sometimes walking, you can tell they want to spit on me. It's obvious. They hate my guts because of what I do and what I look like and what I stand for. It's tough. But it's awesome. Because it's what I wanted to do. Jesus, I love you. And I know that people don't understand it. I didn't understand it. I probably would have wanted to spit on a priest too back in the day and punch him in the face. I get it. So let him spit on me. And let him punch me and call me names and whatever. Fine. But you know what? I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to tell you about sweet freedom that's being offered to you. It's hard. It's not easy. I get it. But it's really real. You're not a monkey. There's a meaning to this whole thing. There's purpose. And you're only going to find it in the Catholic Church. Really. You remember years ago, centuries ago, some dude named Noah, God told him, build an ark. Remember that? Yeah, it was Noah, right? Okay, yeah. So I went to seminary and stuff, but I get these things mixed up every now and then. So God says, build an ark. So he builds an ark. And what was in that ark? Like a ton of animals. That ark stunk to high heaven. It was filthy, disgusting, and they were in it for a long time. And I guarantee you that Noah and his family, they stepped in it every now and then, deep. But that was the only boat that was going to get them to the safety of the shore, not the other ones. People probably in a panic at the last second, it was dumping rain. They were like, oh, dude, we better build one, bro. Right? But those weren't the ones that made it. It was that one that made it. Same thing like the Catholic Church today. Right now, it is so full of animals, filthy, disgusting, knee-deep in manure. We'll say manure. You know this. I know this. I step in it all the time. It stinks. But don't jump out of that boat. You could point to all the sinners, even among us clergy. Look what they've done. Yeah. But it's not about us. It's about the only place where Jesus offers you the bread of life. Unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you don't have life. That's not my words. That's his words. In the book, in the Gospels. He who sins you forgive are forgiven. Behold your mother. All the fullness of the teaching of Jesus Christ is in the Catholic Church, even though it's filled with animals, filthy, stinks. It is the boat. I know this now. I know. I would give everything for this. My friends, if you remember anything from this talk, I want you to remember this. I'm no better than you. We're in this together. And this is real. I don't know what your relationship with Jesus is like. Maybe you're forced here to come tonight. Oh, some surfer priest dude. Come on, honey, let's go listen to him. Come on, kids, let's go, whatever. This is real, guys. And in the depths of your being and the depths, if you had a silent moment like I did, and you took the time to actually ponder it, you would find out too. Really. Take the time. Lent is tomorrow. Perfect. Well played, Jesus. Well played. Now's the time for conversion. The world is, my friend up in Canada, Father Mark Goring says, has gone bonkers. Really has. Get to know Jesus all over again. Maybe you never have. Maybe you've fallen away. Maybe it's become lukewarm. Okay. Go to confession this Lent. Pour it all out. Get it all out. The sweet freedom you will experience is beyond human comprehension. It really and truly is. And invite him into your life again in a deep way. Invite Our Lady into your life. Mother Mary loves you so much. All she wants to do is bring you to Jesus. She's not getting in the way or saying, look at me, look at me. That's not who she is. Look at him. That's what she does. And that's what I'm going to pray for you. For yourself, for your family, your everything. And please pray for me too, and my brother priests. Tough time to be a priest.